The beeping in my daughter's room had a rhythm I could count, even as my phone lit up with messages I didn't want to see. My name is Meera, 34. On the day the doctors said, weeks, maybe days, my sister texted 17 times about a housewarming party. June 15th, she wrote, summer weather, everyone's coming. That was the date they offered me for Grace's funeral. Vanessa knew my 3-year-old was dying. She'd visited once, complained about parking, and now wanted me smiling by her pool while my child fought for breath. When I called to say we were looking at mid-June, she sighed like I was difficult. Life goes on, she said. My parents echoed her. Deposits, flights, plans. I tucked Grace's hair behind her ear and felt something inside me go silent and hard. If fairness meant choosing a party over a farewell, I would learn another kind of fairness. Have you ever watched Family redefine the word family? The night before Grace died, she asked about the swings again. I told her we'd fly higher than the trees. The monitors clicked like slow metronomes, and the plastic chair dug into my back. I learned the names of every nurse on nights. They learned how I take my coffee. Black, 2 sugars I'd pocket and forget to stir. Vanessa kept texting. Pictures of tile samples. A video of water rippling in a brand new pool. You need a distraction, she wrote. June 15th is perfect. I typed and erased a dozen replies. In the end, I sent nothing and sang the lullaby about the bluebird and the open sky. Grace died at sunrise. I felt the moment her hand went weightless in mine. A nurse squeezed my shoulder. The room smelled like alcohol pads and something sweet I couldn't place. I signed papers I couldn't read. When I called my parents, my mother's voice was hushed the way people talk in churches. Oh, honey, she said. And then, that's the same day as Vanessa's party. My father cleared his throat in the background, a rustle of newspaper. We'll figure something out. We didn't. The funeral home gave me the first open Saturday, June 15th. I told Vanessa. Silence. Then the sigh I knew by heart. Deposits, she said. Can't you push it? Funerals are flexible. I stared at the wall until the paint blurred. Grace is in refrigeration, I said. You want me to time my grief around past appetizers? We can't live in limbo forever. Her words were clean and practiced. And Meera, you make everything a crisis. That landed like a slap I didn't flinch from. Years of small cuts surfaced. Her engagement announcement during my wedding toast, a late entrance to my pinched proud nursing graduation followed by a monologue about her promotion. My mother's favorites list that never had my name on it. The fridge hummed. I pressed the heel of my hand to my chest until the ache steadied. Julia found me in the cafeteria with a cup of coffee I couldn't swallow. I'll be at the service, she said. You won't stand there alone. I nodded because speaking felt like dropping glass. The funeral was small and honest. White casket, strawberries at the graveside, a teacher sobbing into her sleeve. No parents, no sister. The shovel's dull thud covered everything I didn't say. That night, the apartment held its breath around me. I opened my laptop. If silence was all they'd given me, I would learn what it could do. The days after the funeral blurred into static. Morning light through blinds, the sound of the fridge, a cup left half full on the counter. I woke before dawn, dressed for work, and drove to the clinic like gravity was a command, not a choice. Patients needed blood pressure checks and wound dressings. I could do those things without thinking. What I couldn't do was erase the image of my parents laughing by a pool while I stood over a grave. I hadn't meant to see it. I opened my laptop one night and found Vanessa's feed still public. So grateful to have my amazing mom here, she wrote beneath a photo of the two of them, champagne in hand, eyes bright with happiness. The timestamp, 2:03 p.m. That was when I'd been lowering Grace's casket. My father had commented, "So proud of my successful daughter." I closed the screen before I shattered it. The next morning, Julia brought muffins and a kind of silence that asked nothing from me. "You need rest," she said. "You've been living on caffeine and ghosts." But rest meant remembering, and remembering meant drowning. So I kept moving, charting vitals, refilling prescriptions, pretending the steady pulse of hospital life could replace a heartbeat that no longer existed. Then my mother called. "You can't stay angry forever," she began. "It was one disagreement. You know we love you." "One disagreement," I repeated. "Between a funeral and a party." "You're being vindictive, Meera. Life has to go on." Her voice carried that thin sweetness she used when selling houses, soft enough to sound kind, sharp enough to close a deal. I let her talk until the noise in my head became unbearable. "Don't call again," I said, and ended it. That night, I sat in Grace's room, her toys lined up as if waiting for her small hands, a pink dress draped over the chair she'd never outgrow. The smell of her shampoo still clung to the sheets. I whispered her name until it stopped sounding like language. They had called her funeral a minor event. Those words became the hinge on which everything turned. Minor. As if her life and death were an inconvenience to be scheduled around cocktails and granite countertops. Something in me calcified that night. Not rage exactly, but clarity. I had always been the good one, the peacekeeper, the daughter who apologized first. That woman had died with Grace. What was left would not beg for understanding. In the morning, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and began to list names. People I knew, people who owed Vanessa favors, people who talked when prompted carefully. If they thought compassion was weakness, they were about to learn what precision looked like. It started with the sound of typing, my fingers steady, my pulse not. I had spent years in hospitals and knew the quiet language of systems, records, audits, protocols. I also knew the name of the pharmaceutical company stamped across every sales box Vanessa used to brag about, Healthwise Pharmaceuticals. I remembered overhearing two doctors once during one of Grace's chemo cycles, talking about a sales rep who'd been pushing higher doses of a new pain medication. Dangerous levels. They'd said her name, Vanessa. Back then, I had dismissed it. Coincidence, I told myself. But coincidence had expired the day she called my daughter's funeral a minor event. I began to dig. Every shift break, every late night. I cross-checked hospital orders, looked for patterns, familiar signatures. The puzzle fit too easily. Vanessa wasn't just aggressive. She was fraudulent. Kickbacks disguised as consulting fees, sales numbers inflated with falsified data, doctors pressured into off-label prescriptions that had already harmed patients. I printed what I found, stored it in a binder labeled insurance reports. Then I contacted Trevor, an investigative journalist who had once interviewed me for a healthcare costs article. We met in a quiet cafe downtown. He was older now, gray at the temples, his eyes curious but cautious. "This is a lot," he said, flipping through the evidence. "Emails, text logs, phone recordings. You understand what this means?" "I do," I said. "It's all real." "And she's your sister?" She was. He studied me for a long moment. If this checks out, her career's over, possibly prison. She scheduled her party on my child's funeral, so yes, I'm sure. He nodded slowly. "Then I'll start verifying. No promises until I confirm." "That's fine," I said. "Truth doesn't need promises." Walking back to my car, I felt lighter. Not happy, but certain. Like the ground had stopped shifting. For the first time since Grace died, I wasn't drowning. I was steering. While Trevor investigated, I turned to my parents. They had always rescued Vanessa, paid her deposits, defended her tantrums, excused her selfishness as ambition. I wanted them to feel consequence, too. Not ruin, just confusion, the kind that mirrors abandonment. Using my father's old password, I crafted emails that looked official. Alerts about suspicious account activity, unverified tax holdings. He would panic, I knew. He always did when orders slipped from his control. A week later, Vanessa posted about it online. "Dad's freaking out about his accounts again. Why are old people so bad with tech?" I almost smiled. 2 weeks after my meeting with Trevor, the story hit. Top pharmaceutical sales rep accused of fraud and patient endangerment. Vanessa's face, her perfect hair, her perfect smile, was on every local news site. By noon, her company suspended her. By evening, she was fired. The phone lit up with calls from Phoenix. I silenced it, drove to the cemetery instead. The grass above Grace's grave had started to grow back. "I started it, sweetheart," I whispered. "They're going to understand now." The sky was quiet, pink around the edges. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Sharp, fleeting, but real. Justice had begun to move. The morning after the article broke, my inbox filled with silence. Calls I wouldn't take, messages I wouldn't open. Vanessa's voice echoed faintly through a voicemail. "How could you do this to me?" I deleted it before the sentence finished. At the clinic, whispers followed me like shadows. "Did you see the story? Wasn't that her sister?" Julia caught my eye at the nurse's station. "You okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be." She studied me carefully. "Revenge doesn't heal, Meera. It just stops the bleeding." "Then I'll take the silence," I said. The pharmaceutical board confirmed the investigation. Federal prosecutors followed. Vanessa faced multiple felony charges: fraud, conspiracy, kickbacks. Her $800,000 house, the one she flaunted online, became collateral for bail. My parents drained their savings to help her. Always the same pattern: rescue Vanessa, justify betrayal. I could have stopped there, I should have. But when I saw new photos, my parents comforting her outside a courthouse, I felt that cold, quiet certainty again. They had learned nothing. So I finished what I'd started. The financial confusion I'd seeded bloomed into chaos. My father's panic grew. My mother accused him of losing control. They argued, froze accounts, sold assets. And when the second wave of headlines hit, while niece was buried, family threw party, the last of their stability collapsed. I had sent those photos myself. The ones from Vanessa's housewarming, champagne, string lights, the timestamp that matched Grace's funeral. Trevor's colleagues verified them. The internet did the rest. "Are you happy now?" My mother screamed through a new number, her voice thin with fury and fear. "We've lost everything. Your father had a heart attack." "Is he going to die?" I asked. "What kind of question?" "I just need to know. I'd hate to have scheduling conflicts." She made a sound that wasn't words. "You've become a monster." "No," I said softly. "You made one." When Vanessa's trial began, I sat in the back row. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her once perfect hair tied back, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "I take responsibility," she said to the judge. Then she turned, found me, and added, "But my sister did this out of revenge." The judge stopped her, but the words had already reached me. Revenge. The word felt heavier when someone else said it. I didn't look away. After sentencing, 5 years in federal prison, I walked outside into the Texas heat. My parents were waiting by the steps, thinner, older, hollow. "You've destroyed us," my mother said. "No," I replied. "I just showed you what destruction feels like." My father's hand trembled. "Can't we fix this?" "There's nothing left to fix," I said. That night I returned to Grace's grave. The air was warm, the grass soft. "It's done," I whispered. "They finally understand." The wind moved through the trees, quiet, indifferent. Somewhere far off, a siren wailed and faded. For the first time, I realized that silence wasn't peace. It was just the echo left when everything else was gone. The morning the article went live, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers, my parents, even Vanessa. I turned it face down on the counter and let it buzz until the sound faded into the hum of the fridge. Top pharmaceutical rep accused of fraud and patient endangerment. Her face filled every headline. By noon, HealthWise announced her suspension. By evening, she was fired. Julia found me at work, a quiet question in her eyes. "You did this?" "I told the truth," I said. "Truth can still burn everything down." Then maybe that's what needed to happen. Within days, the pharmaceutical board confirmed a criminal investigation. Vanessa was charged with fraud and kickbacks. Bail, $200,000. She used her new house as collateral. My parents liquidated investments to help her. I saw a photo of them leaving the courthouse, my mother holding Vanessa's hand, my father shielding her from cameras. Still the same story. Always her. I could have stopped. But then I remembered the word she'd used for Grace's funeral. Minor. The word that had split me in half. So I finished what I'd started. I sent the press the photos from her housewarming. Laughing faces, champagne glasses, timestamps that matched the hour of the burial. The new headline read, "Family celebrates party, while child's funeral takes place across town." That night, my mother called from a new number. "Are you proud of this? Your father's in the hospital. He had a heart attack from the stress." "Is he going to die?" I asked quietly. "Don't be cruel. I just need to know. I'd hate to plan the timing wrong." "You've become someone unrecognizable." "No," I said. "You just never saw me clearly." When Vanessa's trial began, I sat in the last row. She looked nothing like the woman in those party photos, gray suit, tired eyes, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I take responsibility," she told the judge. Then her gaze found mine. "But my sister did this for revenge, not justice." Her words fell like pebbles into deep water. I didn't flinch. Revenge wasn't a curse word anymore. It was a mirror. After sentencing, 5 years in federal prison, my parents waited outside. They looked older, smaller, paper thin. "You've destroyed our family," my mother said. "No," I replied. "I only revealed the cracks you kept pretending weren't there." That evening, I went to Grace's grave. The air was still, the stone cool beneath my fingers. "It's done," I whispered. "They finally know what they chose." The wind rustled through the trees, soft but hollow. I thought it might sound like peace, but it was just quiet, the kind that follows when every voice that ever mattered has already said goodbye. Top of thorn, bottom of thorn. A year later, the silence settled differently. Not sharp, just heavy. Vanessa was in prison. My parents had lost their savings, their comfort, their golden child. And me, I was still here, breathing in a world that kept moving. I visited Grace's grave every Sunday. The grass had grown thick now, soft beneath my hands. I told her everything, the trial, the downfall, the emptiness that followed. "They finally understand, sweetheart," I whispered once, "but it doesn't feel the way I thought it would." Revenge hadn't brought peace. It had only emptied me in a new shape. Julia said healing was choosing to live again, not because the pain fades, but because love deserves survival. So, I started volunteering, helping parents navigate hospital corridors I once knew too well. Every frightened mother reminded me of myself. Every small hand reminded me of Grace. One Sunday, as I left the hospital, the sun was low and gold, the kind Grace used to call lemon light. For the first time in years, I smiled without guilt. Maybe peace wasn't forgiveness. Maybe it was simply this, still breathing, still helping, still remembering. Have you ever learned that peace doesn't mean forgetting, just living without the rage?